Hey folks, this is Dan from the Conan Chronology. Welcome back to another episode of the Unsung Sword of Conan. Today I'm trying to highlight Savage Sword of Conan number 74 from January of 1982. If you haven't checked out the post on my blog, like the written out thing, I would really encourage you to do that because I spent quite a bit of time kind of crafting the history of this issue. And I feel like I made a pretty good argument about something, but I actually say something really cogent there. So I just wanted to tell you to do that before we just look through the issue here. We've got a Joe Jusko cover, which honestly I feel like is kind of a boring cover. It's kind of my least favorite thing about this issue. And I know it's Conan like in the snows and stuff like that. You've got like ice and a stream down here, but most of it just kind of looks white. Like if you're not looking down here in the bottom third of it, it kind of just looks like a drawing of Conan on a white background, which I feel like is not as exciting as a lot of other covers. And unfortunately, the copy that I bought through the internet has a water stain over here. It was really hard to tell in the pictures that was there, and I bought it from like a comic shop in New Mexico or something. And it was a really good price. This thing cost me like $4 or something, but instead I've got this water stain over here. But if we open it up, we've got a frontispiece. One thing I do want to point out on our contents table is Louise Jones, known today as Louise Simonson, Walt Simonson's wife. She was the editor on the book now that Roy Thomas had left a couple of years prior. Like, I want to say it's like 18 months. I actually reached out to her to see if I could ask her a question, which I'm trying to figure out, and she hasn't hit me back yet. And who knows if she will, but I find if you reach out to authors and editors and stuff, the worst thing they can do is ignore you as long as you're polite and everything. But our A story is The Lady of the Silver Snows by Chris Claremont, and Val Myerick is our artist there. The Black Stone is the backup story by Roy Thomas. I'm not sure how far the Roy Thomas backups go because Roy's last A story was in issue 69, so this is 5 issues on from that. And we also have another Roy Thomas story down here with the Island of Pirates Doom, Part 2. And there's a preview of the upcoming Conan the Barbarian movie, which would come out later that year with pictures of Conan and Zamora. The really important thing here is that this is one of 2 Conan issues ever written by Chris Claremont, who is the absolute mastermind of the X-Men. He is, without a doubt, the most important X-Men creator in the history of the team, and this is the one Savage Sword issue that he did for Marvel. He would come back like 30 years later to do one more Conan issue. He would do a short story in the King Size Conan #1 comic that came out in 2020, just a little bit before Marvel lost the Conan license. And that one is also excellent, and I might have to do a future Unsung Sword episode about that one. But he is just fantastic. The chronology note puts Conan in his early 20s after his Turanian mercenary period and his Corinthian mercenary period, and probably right before Queen of the Black Coast. He's swooping down here where he will join the Tigress eventually. I really like this cover page. Conan just looks real serious, and it looks pretty desolate here. We get kind of 2 pages of setting the stage, where it's laying out the awful conditions of this inn here. It's just cold and dark, and everybody's laid up for the winter. And Conan buys his way in with a couple of fine furs. This mysterious character, Kendrick, who only has one arm, as you can see, and he appears to be clairvoyant, having seen Conan. Conan does what Conan does best and starts getting wasted in the tavern. And he has this flashback here, which is not altogether welcomed, apparently. Flashing back to his childhood, and he has this friend named Shard who betrays him and runs off to Venarium, where, of course, Conan will also eventually go. And he looks so pensive here, but I thought he was my friend. So sad. I feel like Val Myerick's art is like the face that he draws for Conan is so interesting. It's definitely not the John Buscema face, the Gil Kane face, or the Frank Frazetta face or anything. It's very pensive and kind of stoic, and at times kind of creepy. We have this character Jerissa, who is his companion for the night. When I first read this, I figured she would just be kind of like a throwaway character, as a lot of sex workers are in Conan stories, but she has more plot to play. They spend the night together. We have a character sneaking in on him. I don't know why, but I really like this face for Conan. It reminds me of Iron Eyes Cody a little bit. Val Eric has a tendency to almost make Conan look Native American in a couple of shots, but and that is totally appropriate, seeing as Venarium is basically an indigenous tribe fighting back against the colonizing Aquilonians. Anyway, Conan throws the guy off of him. He promises to take this woman named Astriel to get her out of this area. And I think the interesting thing is after he makes the promise, Jerissa has heard them, and Kendrick is really afraid that Jerissa is going to sell them out. And Conan is a little more trusting. Should he be? I don't know. We'll see. But Conan meets up with Astriel, and I think this is just such cool, unique art. I feel like we don't see a lot of art like Valma Eric's these days, but apparently Astriel's hair kind of glimmers almost like her ice blue eyes, and I feel like it's just so cool. He gives her this like kind of white sheen around her, and I'm sure part of it is just to stand her out from the black background here, but it makes her look so cool. And I think this is my first like favorite panel in the entire book. Just this low sun with Kendrick silhouetted there. It just looks so beautiful. And Velma Eric does these really deep shadows contrasted against these really bright whites of the snows, and it just looks awesome. If you read the prose version, where I sing the praises for this issue, I think this is a really key panel here. If they are to be overtaken, Astriel would like to be killed by Conan. She says, "I have been dishonored. I prefer death." And I feel like this might be Chris kind of calling back to Avengers number 200, where a character he cared a lot about was maybe kind of taken from him as far as the control, and kind of had something terrible done to him. Done to her. Kendrick is fighting for his life. Conan's buddy Shard is back, and I feel like you can so pinpoint when this issue came out because Shard looks exactly like John Oates from Hall & Oates. The mustache is just, it's a great choice, right? He's got these twin sorcerer buddies from Stygia, and they threaten Jerissa here, and it seems like despite her best efforts, Jerissa cannot withstand their torture. I really love this page. Conan's like, "Wake up, woman!" And she smacks him and has this whole kind of crazy power thing going on, and we get this really dramatic close up on Jerissa's or on Astriel's face. And man, I just like the line work, the shading here on her cheeks and lips, and like in her eye sockets and stuff is so unique to Velma Eric. Just looks of terror like this, he does them so well. They almost remind me of that Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark book we all read in elementary school that gave us nightmares. Eventually, they're passing through mountain passes on really rickety passes, and their horses are vaporized, which is kind of crazy. We get this great Tothamon look here. Who it's kind of similar to how Toth looks in a couple of other Marvel properties, but he has these winding horns on himself. And Tothamon in Marvel stuff usually has horns kind of like that, but they don't usually look quite that devilish and terrifying. Really got that ugly kind of chiseled face here, and he apparently had enslaved Astriel at some point, and Kendrick saved her. And of course, Kendrick was, cursed to kind of watch her stay the same as he grew older and older. Right after they kind of escape Shard for a little bit, they get attacked by these demon bat thingies, which are so cool. I always love when Conan brings out the Morgan, Matcha, and the Main. He's really in deep shit when he brings that out. But I just like the bodies of these devil bat things look so tactile, and that's so Val. Just the shadows on them, I feel like you know exactly what the skin quality is like on those things. They look scaly and kind of hard and disgusting. And Conan gets to behead one of them. Very fun. I always love pictures like this where apparently the sun is going down and he's kind of part of the dark sky, but also flying toward the light sky. It looks really good. As the twin sorcerers show up, they kind of put Astriel into their grasp, and once again she is underestimated, and she uses that to her advantage. I find this it's so sad. I feel like Chris Claremont is so good at the humanity of people and the relationships, and him and Val together as this dagger is thrown in, and the sorcerer just says "brother" right before he crumples. Like this makes me so sad. Uh, in a way that I feel like it shouldn't. Like he's obviously an evil Stygian sorcerer, but I am a twin, and this just made me I feel like in this moment he ceases to be a villain, and he's just a dying man who is afraid of what's on the other side and to leave his brother behind. And so I feel like this is a lot of humanity that other comics might not have. And of course, his brother is quickly dispatched as well. And Conan barely survives. He's limping, and he asks for a good Sumerian death. But Shard is still around, and I love this panel. Conan looks so ferocious. If you want her Shard, take her. Conan fights back a little bit. I love the cinematic nature of these two panels here. We've got this big mountain in the background and this kind of concave inlet here, and then we kind of zoom out just a little bit and we get all the guys. Great sequential storytelling. And it's not Conan who saves them, but it's Astriel, who is now close enough to her homeland to kind of activate her Snow Queen powers with these cool looking mammoths and saber-toothed tigers and wolves and stuff. She feels the power of fire and water returning to her, and these guys are not happy about it, but in that moment she pulls kind of a Gandalf the White sort of moment and becomes the Snow Queen, the Lady of the Silver Silence, and says, "This is my domain, mortals, and you are trespassing." And they turn tail and they run away like little goobers. And Conan, of course, falls right here and blacks out. This is a great blackout panel. Looks really nifty. And when he comes to, he is in her domain. She has given him new soft clothes, and we've got the kitty cats hanging around licking themselves. And here Astriel is fully the Snow Queen. One thing I think is interesting is as Conan and Astriel come to trust each other, Astriel literally lets her hair down. In the beginning of the book, she's got this tight kind of braid thing across her head, like Princess Leia on Hoth. And then as time goes on, her hair comes down more and more. She has her hair down eventually, and then it's just flowing as she is the Snow Queen. And Conan and her decide to make the most of the winter together because they are kind of laid up until the thaw comes and Conan can leave. We get the Sword and Scrolls page, now being answered by Louise Simonson rather than Roy since he left. And, of course, The Black Stone, which is an excellent Robert E. Howard story. If you haven't read The Black Stone, it is a quick read, and it is a weird, creepy read, and it's a really excellent story. But we get a Roy Thomas backup based on a good Robert E. Howard story. We get some shots of Conan the movie rather than just Conan the Barbarian. It's kind of cool to see what they were anticipating, seeing as now the movie's over 40 years old and we all know it intimately. And then we get one last the sea story here that's just one page before we get a couple of price things. This is truly an excellent issue of Savage Sword. I feel like I've kind of become the flag waver for it. There was a guy on Reddit who I made a comment saying, "Oh, people should check out 74. They're sleeping on Savage Sword 74." And he was like, "Didn't somebody else say that recently?" And he went back into his chat history and saw that he was like, "Oh my gosh, that was you." So I've really become the flag waver, trying to get people on Savage Sword number 74. I would say this issue stands up with anything that Roy Thomas ever did, any of those best issues. It is a fantastic story about trust and loyalty, and it's melancholy and creepy at times, and has some really good villains and some just absolutely beautiful art. Velma Eric does it like nobody else does, and it makes me kind of sad that what I think might be the absolute worst issue of Savage Sword of all time, I forget what number it is, I think it's like 93 or something, it's called Death Dwarves Stygia, and I always feel like it needs to have like an of in there, something like Death Dwarves of Stygia. That is my pick for worst issue of all time, but it was also drawn by Velma Eric and inked by Vince Colletta, so maybe part of it was the Vince Colletta inking. If he's just maybe one of the worst inkers that Marvel had in his later years, but Savage Sword 74, super awesome. Go read my post about it on the Conan Chronology, please, and tell me what you think if you've read this one as well.